Can you please state and spell your last name for the record?
Jason Stalker. It's Stalker.
What is your occupation?
Sergeant with the Dunk County Sheriff's Office.
And how long have you been employed in law enforcement?
10 years.
On March 23rd at approximately 6 p.m., do you recall being dispatched to a field drive off of 430th Avenue?
Yes.
And after you arrived, were you concerned about the weather potentially affecting evidence in this case?
Yeah, the forecast was incoming rain-snow mix that evening.
And as part of this investigation, did you subsequently print off weather reports regarding the weather on both March 22nd and March 23rd, 2018?
Yes, I did.
May I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
I'm showing you what's been marked as exhibits 502 and 497. Do you recognize those documents?
Yes.
And what are they?
The weather reports that I had printed off.
And are they accurate copies of those weather reports as you remember them?
Yes.
I'd move exhibits 497 and 502 into evidence.
Any objection?
No, if we could just get the particular dates for each one.
I'm sorry, 497 is March 22nd.
Thank you. And the other one is,
502 is March 23rd.
thank you.
All right, then, exhibits 502 and 497 will be received.
And Sergeant, if you look at the second page of 497, excuse me, the fourth page of 497, does it contain the various temperatures throughout the day?
Yes.
And at 1:15 p.m., what was the temperature in Menominee?
Uh, 39.6 degrees Fahrenheit.
And what was the temperature at 4 p.m. or 4:15 p.m.?
41.2 degrees Fahrenheit.
And if you turn to the fifth page, what was the temperature at 11:55 p.m.?
28.2 degrees Fahrenheit.
And then if you look at the exhibit 507, what was the first page of that? What was the maximum temperature on March 23rd of 2018?
Maximum temperature was 41 degrees Fahrenheit.
And what was the minimum temperature?
20 degrees Fahrenheit.
Okay, thank you. The following day, on March 24th of 2018, did you go to Stanley, Wisconsin to speak with the defendant's family?
Yes, I did.
And who was with you?
Investigator Dykus as well as Investigator Kowalczyk from the Chippewa County Sheriff's Office.
And is Stanley, Wisconsin located in Chippewa County?
Yes.
And do you recall who you spoke with that day?
Yes, I spoke with Joe Shane Carlin, which is Ezra's adoptive father, and Rosalina Gunnelson, which is Ezra's mother, and then her grandparents, Terry and Deborah Carlin.
And were your conversations with the family recorded?
Yes.
And was a transcript later created of that recording?
Yes.
Did you previously review that entire transcript to ensure it was true and accurate as you recalled the conversation?
Yes, I did.
And were you present during the entire conversation with the family?
Yes.
And when you compared the transcripts, you compared them with the recording to ensure they were accurate, is that right?
Yes.
May I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
I'm showing you what's been marked as Exhibit 346B. And does that contain page 34 of the transcript?
Yes.
Objection, I think it's been previously noted, I don't. But this is in the improper form of the question. We need to ask him and then they can put the transcript in later, but I want to make my note of the objection that we previously discussed.
All right, your objection is noted. Go ahead.
And were you present when Investigator Kowalczyk asked whether there were any knives that Mr. Carlin knew of?
Yes, I was.
And were you present when he made his response?
Yes, I was.
And looking at Exhibit 346B, is that an accurate transcript on that, on both the recording as well as your memory?
Yes.
I'd move 346B into evidence and request to publish for the jury.
Any objection other than what has been noted?
No need to,
Okay.
objection to the publication. I understand the information's come in based upon last objections. There's no need to publish it. Testimony came in through his, at the stand.
All right, I'm going to overrule, I'll allow that to be published to the jury.
And what was Mr. Carlin's response to Investigator Kowalczyk's question?
Joe Shane responded, I just have a couple of knives in my home. They're just like work knives, you know. Just flip open ones for when I'm doing my tree service if I've got to cut a rope. As far as any that she would have, no.
Thank you. And after you spoke with the family, did you and the other officers execute a search warrant at Joe Shane Carlin's house?
Yes, we did.
And why were you executing a search warrant?
To search for any evidence related to the homicide we were investigating.
And were you directed to anything in the house when you went into Mr. Carlin's house?
Yes, Joe Shane pointed out a pile of belongings in the corner of the living room behind a chair that he said belonged to Ezra.
And were you also directed to any knives in the house?
Yes, he also pointed out a folding knife that was on the side table that was next to this same chair in the living room.
And did you subsequently seize that knife and put it into evidence?
Yes.
May I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
I'm showing you what's been marked as exhibit number 215. Do you recognize that item?
Yes.
And is that the same knife that you seized back on March 24th of 2018?
Yes, it is.
I'd move exhibit 215 into evidence.
Any objection to Exhibit 215?
No, Your Honor.
All right, Exhibit 215 will be received.
And Sergeant, did you later compare exhibit 215 with the knife recovered from the ditch line in this case?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'd request to publish both exhibit 233 that's already been moved into evidence as well as exhibit 213 on the Elmo.
You may.
I'm first placing on the Elmo exhibit 233. And I'm now placing on the Elmo exhibit 215. And when you reviewed them, did you note anything in particular when you compared the two knives?
They were identical knives.
Thank you. And you also indicated that you were directed, well, actually, you were directed to a pile of belongings, is that right?
Yes.
And did you take a photograph of the pile of belongings before you examined the contents?
Yes, I did.
May I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
I'm showing you it's been marked as Exhibit 375. What is that exhibit?
That's the photograph of the pile of belongings behind the chair in the living room.
Is it an accurate copy of the photograph you took?
Yes.
Move Exhibit 375 into evidence and
Any,
request to publish.
any objection?
No, Your Honor.
That'll be received and you may publish.
And so if I provided you with a laser pointer, could you point out to what items you searched when you were at the residence on March 24th?
This pile of belongings behind the chair right here.
Okay, thank you. And can you explain for the jury how you went about looking at the different items?
So we remove one bag at a time, photograph the bag, and then we started removing items out of the bag and photographed each item as we pulled it out.
And was one of the items a blue cover book?
Yes. I got them.
I'm showing you what's been previously marked as Exhibit 362. If you could just open that item. And if you can just leave it in the package, but if you're able to determine by looking inside if that's the same blue book that you located in the defendant's belongings on March 24th, 2018.
Yes, it is.
Did you also locate a red and white flowered notebook inside the belongings?
Yes.
I'm now showing you what's been marked as Exhibit 217. And if you could do the same thing, open that item and look inside. And is that the same white or red and white flowered notebook that you seized from the defendant's belongings on March 24th, 2018?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. When you were also there, did you locate a document relating to employment at Joanne Fabrics?
Yes, I did.
And do you recall what that document indicated was the defendant's wages from 2017 while working at Joanne Fabrics?
Yes, those wages were approximately $1,360.
And when you were going through the bags, did you also locate a birth certificate relating to the defendant?
Yes.
And did you take a photograph of that?
Yes, I did.
May I approach?
You may.
I'm showing you what's been previously marked as Exhibit 501. Is that the photograph of the birth certificate that you took?
Yes,
And is it an accurate copy?
yes.
And when does it indicate the defendant's change of name occurred?
November 13th, 2015.
Move Exhibit 501 into evidence.
Subject to, again, previous discussions on the record, Exhibit 501 will be received.
And did you observe some clothing within those different bags that you examined?
Yes,
And did you lay those different clothing items out and photograph them?
yes, we did.
And did you observe any visible cuts or tears in the clothes when you laid them out?
No, I did not.
And before you left Mr. Carlin's residence, do you recall trying to search for a second knife?
Yes.
What, if anything, did Mr. Carlin do?
He thought that the second knife would be on the kitchen counter in a basket. And so we went and looked in that area. We also looked throughout the house, and we did not find it. Joe Shane thought it could possibly...
Objection, hearsay, move to strike any thoughts or statements of Joe Shane Carlin.
Sustained on hearsay.
And so did you check the kitchen for the knife?
Yes.
And was it located in that kitchen basket?
No.
Did you go to another location to try to find the missing knife?
Yeah, we went to Joe Shane's place of employment where he works for the tree service.
And was a search performed on Mr. Carlin's work truck to try to locate that knife?
Yes, we did. We did not locate it.
Did you then go to the defendant's mother's residence, also in Stanley?
Yes.
And were you directed to a room where the defendant's belongings were located?
Yes.
And prior to searching any of those items, did you take a photograph of those items?
Yes, I did.
May I approach?
You may.
Showing you what's been marked as Exhibit 675. What does that photograph depict?
The room that I was directed to and a pile of belongings that were in the room.
Is that an accurate copy?
Yes.
Move Exhibit 675 into evidence.
Any objection?
No.
Request to publish for the jury.
Exhibit 675 will be received and you may publish.
And do you recall searching, did you search all of those items or?
Yes,
did
we
you-
went through everything.
And when you were searching, did you locate anything in the closet of significance?
There was a steak knife hidden on the shelf of the closet.
And did you do anything with that knife?
We photographed it.
All right, thank you. Did you also locate in the belongings at, I believe, was it Ms. Gunnelson's residence?
I'm sorry, repeat that?
Was it Ms. Gunnelson's residence where you were searching?
Yes.
And did you locate a cell phone within those items?
Yes.
And was it a Samsung Galaxy phone?
Yes.
And did you seize that cell phone?
I did.
And was that placed into evidence?
Yes, it was.
Now, going back to the date of the March 23rd, when you were at the Field Drive Road, do you recall a vehicle being located down that road?
Yes, I do.
Do you remember, or do you know what happened to that vehicle after it left the Field Drive Road?
I'm sorry, where it was parked or after we were done processing the
Yes,
scene?
after you were done processing the scene.
After we were done processing the scene, it was towed back to our impound facility.
And did you learn that the vehicle later was sent to a different location?
Yes, it was later transported to the Wausau State Crime Lab.
And did individuals at the crime lab Based on your knowledge, they processed the vehicle?
Yes.
And did your office have any part of processing that vehicle?
No.
And then after the vehicle was processed, do you know where it was placed?
After it was processed, it was transported back to our impound facility.
And has it been at the Dunn County Sheriff's Office impound facility, I guess since March 23rd, 2018, or since this investigation began?
Yes, it has been.
And has it been in a secure location?
Yes.
A few days ago, did you execute a search warrant to retrieve some items that were located in that vehicle?
Yes, I did.
Was one of the items a driver's license?
Yes, it was.
And was that the defendant's driver's license?
Yes.
Do you recall where it was located in the vehicle?
At the time that I searched for that driver's license, it was in a brown paper bag in the trunk, labeled the front driver's seat compartment area.
And did you recognize, was it, let me start over, was it a driver's license relating to the defendant, Ezra McCandless?
Yes.
And do you recall what the height and weight was on that driver's license?
5'6" and 130 pounds.
Did you also retrieve a handwritten letter from that vehicle?
Yes, I did.
Do you recall where that handwritten letter was located?
It was in that same bag.
That may approach, Your Honor.
You may.
I'm showing you what's been marked as Exhibit 677. I don't need you to open it since it's in a plastic bag, but is that the same item that you retrieved from the vehicle?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Then also, as part of your investigation in this case, did you review some different so when you did the, let me go back to when you got the letter and driver's license, did that bag indicate where they were originally located?
Yeah, the bag was labeled front driver's seat compartment area, including center console.
And then as part of your investigation in this case, do you recall examining some electronic downloads seized from devices at Alexander Woodworth's house?
Yes, I did.
Do you recall reviewing a reader report of an Amazon Fire tablet?
Yes, I did.
And did you locate of anything of evidentiary value to this investigation on that Fire tablet?
No, I did not.
Did you also examine an Asus laptop computer from Alex's room?
Yes, I did.
And did you locate anything of interest on that laptop computer?
The only thing of interest that I located was it appeared Alex had conducted a Facebook search for Ezra McCandless and Jason Mengel on February 17th, 2018.
And did you also examine a Samsung tablet with keyboard and pink cover?
Yes, I did.
And did you locate anything of evidentiary value on that, I guess of that download relating to the Samsung tablet?
No, I didn't.
Had it been some time since Alex had even used that item?
I believe it had been since May or June of 2017.
And did you also review a Gmail account or Google return related to Alexander Woodworth?
Yes, I did.
And what, if anything, did you locate in that return?
Nothing of significance. It appeared that that hadn't been used for quite some time as well.
Did you also examine a gray LG cell phone download report from a phone recovered from the center console of the defendant's car?
Yes, I did.
And did you locate anything of evidentiary value on that phone?
No, I did not.
And did you execute a search warrant relating to a Google account associated with the defendant?
Yes, I did.
And what was the name of the account that was associated with the defendant?
The Adventures of Timothy J.
And did you receive a Google disk return as well as a certificate of basically authentication.
Yes, I did.
That may approach.
You may.
I'm showing you what's been marked as exhibits 269.
Judge, can we approach?
So prior to coming into court today, did you review the disc on exhibit 269?
Yes, I did.
And is it an accurate copy of the return you received from Google related to the defendant's account?
Yes.
Move exhibit 269 into evidence.
Exhibit 269 will be received, but subject to limitation.
And when you examined the Google return, did you locate any journal of interest?
Yes, I located 2 journals. One was saved as Journal 1 and the other as Journal 2.
That may approach.
You may.
I'm showing you what's been marked as exhibit 365. What is that document?
That is Journal 1. It's titled Silence Broken.
And is that an accurate copy of the journal you located on the Google search warrant return?
Yes.
And move exhibit 365 into evidence.
Any objection? Other than, well, subject to prior discussions and limitations, Exhibit 365 will be received. And ladies and gentlemen, you'll note on Exhibit 365, there is some redaction, and the parties have essentially agreed that that material is completely irrelevant and inadmissible for purposes of this case. And the court certainly concurs with that, so I ask that you not speculate or wonder about what is redacted. You just have to accept the fact. We all agree that it's inadmissible and irrelevant. Okay? Thank you.
And Sergeant, when you examined the Google return, were you able to determine when this silence was broken journal was last edited?
Yes, it was last edited at, it was 7:23 p.m. on March 21st, 2018.
Can I request to publish 365 to the jurors?
All right, you may. In the interest of time, a copy has been provided or prepared for each of you.
And then, Your Honor, I'm just going to stop my questioning until the jury has had an opportunity to review that exhibit.
All right, and ladies and gentlemen, I ask that you review Exhibit 365, and once everyone has had a chance to read that, then we'll move on. So, anybody need more time? Okay, it appears that I think we had about 7 minutes or so go by. It appears that all the jurors have had a chance to review their copy of Exhibit 365. Okay, were we going to recollect those copies then from the jury?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, you may proceed.
Thank you. Sergeant, were you also able to locate a second journal contained in the defendant's Google account return?
Yes, I did.
I'm showing you what's been marked as Exhibit 366. What is that document?
This is Journal 2.
And is that your handwriting on the top?
Yes, it is.
And how many pages is this?
Approximately 2.5.
Is this an
3 pages.
accurate copy of the Journal 2 you located?
Yes.
I'd move Exhibit 366 into evidence.
All right, Exhibit 366 will be received.
And Sergeant, were you able to determine the last time that Journal 2 was edited?
Yes, that was last edited at 7:40 p.m. on March 21st, 2018.
And request to publish 366 in the same manner?
All right, you may. You all set? Or need some more time? Okay. Any jurors need additional time? Okay. All right, then you can hand those back to the bailiff.
Your Honor, I have no further questions for Sergeant Stalker.
Okay, and we'll wait until copies of 366 are collected before we go with cross-examination. All right, Mr. Nelson, are you doing cross?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you may proceed.
Mr. Stalker, I want to ask you some questions about your contact with Mr. Carlin okay?
Okay.
That was at his house?
Part of our contact was, and part of it was at his parents' house.
The conversation that you talked about, was that at his parents' house?
Which part of the conversation?
I believe there was a transcript you taught. Your initial
Yeah.
conversation with him was at his parents' house, correct?
That's correct.
Was it the same day that you executed the search warrant?
Yes.
So you went to his parents' house, met him there first, agreed?
Yes.
And then you eventually said, we have a search warrant, we're going to go to your house, agreed?
Yes.
I just want to ask the topics of conversation that you asked, okay?
Okay.
I don't want to get into the content of what he said, because I don't think we can do that, okay?
Okay.
You asked him questions about whether Ezra had had hunter safety courses, is that right?
I don't know that I did, but one of our investigators would have, yes.
Okay,
Yep.
so you weren't there alone, agreed?
Correct.
You were there with other people from law enforcement, agreed?
Yes.
And you were there the entire conversation that you and/or other law enforcement officers had with Mr. Carlin at his parents' house, agreed?
Yes.
So you have knowledge of what was asked or said to him, agreed?
Yes.
And so when I talk about it, I'm talking about it in the collective. Feel free to point out if it's not you, but you heard these questions being asked of him, okay?
Yep.
You heard that he was asked if Ezra had any hunter safety courses, correct?
Yes.
You heard it being asked if she ever discussed with him self-defense.
Yes.
You heard it asked if Ezra ever took an interest in hunting.
Yes.
You heard it be asked if he knew of Ezra owning any weapons, correct?
Yes.
And the term used was weapons, agreed?
If I could, I'd like to look at the transcript just to verify, but.
Well,
I
you
believe
wrote out
that's-
a report. Would that refresh your memory?
Yes.
Showing you DOJ 229, page 229. This is your report. It's dated March 23rd, and I'm showing you page 11. This is the portion I'm asking you about. You can read anything, but why don't you read that to yourself and then let us know when you're finished.
Okay.
That refresh your memory?
Yep.
The word that was used in the question was weapons, agreed?
Yes.
You then executed a search warrant at his house, is that right?
Yes.
And during that search warrant, you and/or law enforcement asked Joshane Carlin again about whether there's any weapons in the home, agreed?
Yes.
And Mr. Carlin spoke about Again, not getting into the content, but in general spoke about many weapons. Agreed?
Yes.
Mentioned guns in the home, correct?
Yes.
That's
And
some
our-
relevance.
Overruled.
Just in general, he pointed out and mentioned to you how many and where the guns were, correct?
I don't recall him pointing out the firearms, but yes, we did have that conversation. We asked that question if there was, what there was for weapons in his house.
'Cause that would certainly be a typical of law enforcement when they're executing a search warrant. They want to know if there's any weapons, regardless of whether it's for evidence or not, just for safety purposes. Agreed?
Yes.
So that was certainly an important part that you would have covered that day, right?
Yes.
Wasn't necessarily documented in your report, but that was done.
Yes.
You also executed a search warrant at Ezra's mother's house, is that right?
Yes.
And you talked about, you took photos of lots of things that you did in both of those search warrants, right?
Yes.
So I'm going to ask you about the Gunnelson home, okay?
Okay.
That's where Ezra's mom lives, at the Gunnelson home, correct?
Yes.
And you were directed at some point to a room where some of Ezra's belongings were, correct?
Yes.
Fair to say that's actually a guest bedroom, agreed?
It could be. That's the room that we were directed to, that she said Ezra's belongings were at.
Okay. You don't know if other people's belongings were also in there, correct?
No.
You just know that the belongings that Ezra had there, you were told that they were all in this room, correct?
Yes.
It may be that other people's belongings were also there, agreed?
It's possible. Yes.
And so I know you. Is this on the entry? Can I display Exhibit 675, publish that?
Has that been received?
Yes, that's my understanding. They have.
Yes.
And I'm going to just give you in case it's easier to look at another hard copy, sir. Exhibit 675, this is a photo of the room that you're talking about where Ezra's belongings were, agreed?
Yes.
What we see here are some of Ezra's belongings, correct?
Yes.
And some belongings that belong to perhaps other people, agreed?
Agreed.
You don't know.
Correct.
You testified that you, at some point, found a knife in that room, agreed?
Yes.
Fair to say that the knife was in plain view on the top shelf there in the closet?
Yes, it was tucked beside some belongings on the top shelf.
Okay, so previously, when you used the word hidden, you may have misspoke because it was actually in plain view, right?
Well, I think it was, we could see it by looking at it, but it wasn't just out there in the open. It was between, there's some boxes and books and stuff up there. It was between those items.
It was between items, just like the books are between books, correct?
Correct.
Just like the games are between games, correct?
Yes.
You wouldn't say that the games are hidden that are on that top shelf, would you?
No, but they're bigger too.
Sure. You wouldn't say that the books are hidden that are on there, would you?
No.
You wouldn't say that the papers that are on there are hidden, would you?
The what?
Any papers or documents that are on that top shelf are hidden, no?
No.
Some things are just more visible than others based upon their size, agreed?
Yes.
You don't know who put that there.
Correct.
You don't know why they put it there.
Correct.
And what we do know is it was there, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Those are the only questions I have on that. Thank you. Want to switch gears for a second and go back to your search at Mr. Carlin's house, okay?
Okay.
Again, you found, I think, an area that you were directed to that had some belongings of Ms. McCandless, agreed?
Yes.
And in that area, you found lots of paperwork, agreed?
Yes.
I want to ask you questions about the paperwork that appears to have been from local government agencies, okay?
Okay.
There were several, what I would call, and you might call it something different, but pamphlets, handouts from victim witness agencies, agreed?
Yes, I do recall seeing those.
There was,
Your Honor, can we approach on this?
what's been marked as Exhibit 678, do you recognize that photo?
Yes.
Very poor quality, agreed?
Yes, it is.
But is that a photo that you took of items that you found at Joe Shane Carlin's house in the area that you were directed to regarding Ezra McCandless's belongings?
We did find these at Joe Shane's. I don't recall where exactly we found these at. There was also a red folder upstairs that we located with some similar contents.
Showing you a piece of paper with 16 photos that may refresh your memory as to the order of items that you found. Does that do so?
Yes.
Would it be helpful for you to keep that in your hands?
Yes, it would.
Okay. Move for the admission of Exhibit 678.
All right, court will receive Exhibit 678.
Permission to publish.
You may.
The item 678, you see that on the screen up on there?
Yes.
And I know it's poor quality, so you're going to test your memory here and your vision. But these are pamphlets that you found, and I think what you've said is it's a red folder upstairs.
Yes.
In the pamphlets, again, just, they speak for themselves, but just, it's a little bit blurry, so I want to make sure that, I want to point out a couple. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
The one on the bottom right here, that's a pamphlet for Bolton Refuge House, is that right?
Yes.
And the one in the middle on the top, that's dealing with crisis, a victim response.
Yes.
Correct? And fair to say that all of the pamphlets that are visible there follow along those same themes about victim witness assistance programs. Is that agreed?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Can I just stand up there, Your Honor, so I can go through it easier with the witness?
You may.
Again, showing you a piece of paper with 16 thumbnails on it. Just want to ask you some questions that might be helpful for your memory. Did you also remember seeing a sheet in there that was entitled a Bill of Rights for Survivors?
Yes, that is included in here.
Okay. And there was also a business card from somebody in Eau Claire County Crisis Response Specialist, is that right?
Yes.
And there is also a business card from another crisis response specialist named Kristen Wojlewicz, Wojslewicz. Is that what that appears to be with a approximate spelling?
Yes.
Is this an exhibit?
Happy to mark it if you want. I was just using it to refresh his memory. I don't think we need it marked.
I think we should.
All right, why don't we mark it?
Okay. I just didn't know who was handling the witness. His note off was.
What's that exhibit number?
Exhibit number is 679 that I'd been referring to previously. Not offering, but since it's made reference to. Sir, I'm showing you what's been marked Exhibit 680. Does that appear to be a full photograph of what I'd previously asked you regarding the Bill of Rights for survivors?
Yes.
Showing you what's been marked as 681. Does that appear to be the full photograph of the card from the crisis response specialist?
Yes.
And I'm showing you 682. Does that appear to be, again, the full photo of the crisis response specialist for Kristen Wojtowicz, Wojtawicz? Yes, it is. I want to just briefly ask you about Exhibits 365 and 366, okay?
Okay.
I don't want to get into the content, but you're familiar with Exhibit 365 entitled Silence Broken?
Yes, I did review it.
Fair to say that there are no names mentioned in here other than the name Ezra McCandless on the title, correct?
Correct.
That the writer, Ms. McCandless, uses pronouns to talk about other people, correct?
Yes.
Sometimes the pronouns are male, sometimes the pronouns are neutral, and there may even be some pronouns that are female. Agreed?
Yes.
Fair to say without context or knowing the writer's exact intent, it's not clear from the document itself as to who the pronouns are referring to. Agreed?
Objection speculative.
It's not speculative when I'm asking.
I'm going to overrule the objection. Go ahead, if you can answer.
I'm sorry, can you repeat it?
Sure. Can you have the court reporter read back the question, please?
Question. Fair to say, without context or knowing the writer's exact intent, it's not clear from the document itself as to who the pronouns are referring to. Agreed?
Agreed.
And that would be the same for Exhibit 366, the Journal 2 item, correct?
Yes.
Again, there's no names used other than on the top, I think it says from Ezra's Google account, correct?
Yes.
Otherwise, the pronouns, again, the he's, or male pronouns, female pronouns, neutral pronouns are used, correct?
Yes.
And the same about context. You don't know who those are referring to without context or the writer's intent. Agreed?
Correct.
All right. Those are the only questions I have, Judge. Thank you.
All right, any redirect?
Just briefly, you were asked about the conversation about, do you remember, was Joshane Carlin asked about weapons in the house?
Yes.
And the exhibit, I don't know the number, but with the transcript.
Got it. Hold on a second. It's Exhibit 346.
Thank you. Exhibit 346 that was put on the screen, was that response specific to a question specifically about knives?
Yes.
And you were asked, and I don't want you to give the answer, but I'm wanting to know, in the journal, did you have context in this case?
Yes.
And so does the context tell you, in your opinion, and I don't want to know what your opinion is, but does it tell you who the pronouns refer to?
Yes, I can make my own opinion.
Okay, thank you.
Any recross, Mr. Nelson?
No, Judge.
All right. Okay, Deputy Stalker, you may step down. And